In this series, we're going to go over extending the editing capabilities of Unity to make an interface that mimics nonlinear editors, such as digital video, post-processing, and audio editing software interfaces. One very important thing to note before we begin is that the end product we will be creating will not be practical for any kind of real work. It will just go through the basics of what is needed for the user interface framework. In this chapter, we will start out by creating the runtime scripts that will hold our data structures. We will then go on to extending the inspector to open our custom editor. Lastly, we will get a window opening, which we will, over the series, convert into an interactable NLE editor framework. We have a new scene here. First thing we do is create our main file. We'll call it post system. Yeah, system's fine. Then we'll hit enter with it selected to open up MonoDevelop. There we go. Come on now. Let's size this in to the screen. There we go. Alright, so let's line that up right there. Get rid of that, and then first thing we're going to need are layers. Most video editing systems you see have this idea of layers, so it's going to be let's call this a post. No, it doesn't need the word post in it. We'll just say layer, class layer, and we're going to have our individual blocks of data, which we'll just call blocks. I don't know what an official or the official term is, but we'll just call it that. And they do need to be public, and if we're going to save it in the mono behavior, they should also be system serializable. So system.serializable. I don't know why just normal serializable isn't showing up in the IntelliSense, but you don't need that whole serializable attribute thing. Just that's fine. Okay, a layer is going to have blocks. So we'll actually make it a list. It'll make it easier. We could use arrays, but this will be easier. So collections.generic, that's where the templated containers are. So public, whoops, list block, and it's got to be public or else it won't save to the mod behavior. So basically, if you want to save your class, it's got to be or a class in a class, it's got to be public, and both of them have to be public classes that have system serializable. There's kind of other ways, but this is the easiest, most direct way. Okay, so list of blocks, and let's give each one a name too, just for funsies. String m or title. Okay, and then block will have public, it's going to be saved, float, start frame, yeah, and float, end frame, and we'll add more data to it later, not needed right now. What is this little red squiggly for? I don't know. I guess we'll find out later. So then, if we also have a list here of layers, public list layer, underscore layers is fine. We'll save that, and then we'll go to Unity to let it compile, see if everything's hunky-dory. I think so. So if we have move this post system to the main camera here, select the main camera, then you'll see here we have our layers, and for each of the layers, we'll just create 5 right now, we have the title, and then we have, you know, the blocks. Okay, so we have, oh, come on, let's get rid of that. So we have our basic data that we're going to edit with. Now we just have to, you know, get the foundation for the editor. So first we have to create a folder called editor, and any script that's going to be an editor script has to be in a folder called editor in your project file hierarchy. Then we'll say C#, and then we'll say post system inspector, and then we'll create another one. Yeah, we'll create another one. Okay, post system editor, and then we'll double click, open this up in MonoDevelop, and then alright, so it's not going to be a mono behavior because it's going to be an editor window, so editor window, and then backspace, do all this stuff, public override, void, and it's got a very specific function. I forget what it's called. On inspector GUI. Inspector GUI. Okay, and this is it's a specific name that you'll see, in the documentation. And for C#, it has to be a public override because it's using the virtual function system. Like for most of the mono behaviors, I think it uses reflection to see, like, does it have a function called this or that or that. It doesn't have to be in the virtual table. If you guys know what I'm talking about, if you don't, not too important. But I think for the editor window, for this function right here, it is a virtual function, so you have to override it to use it. Okay, so then here we do editor GUI. Oh, I also forgot these right here. Unity Engine, using collection, but we also want to use using Unity Editor namespace. I don't know if namespace is the word I want to use there, but binaries includes something like that. Editor, come on, fingers, type correctly. Editor GUI utility. Look like inspector, because there's two different types of GUI sets. There's the one you see in the inspector, and then there's the one for custom inspectors, which are called the control GUI, and they look different. Besides that, there's not much different about them, but if we want to keep it consistent with the inspector that we're about to create, looks like the default inspector. We need this right here for the media mode GUI. And then there's a function. Oh, God. I didn't even notice. I brought up the documentation on the screen and didn't even see that. Anyways. Default. Did that show up in IntelliSense? Ah. Guess I just need to reload. I'm pretty bad to where I always need IntelliSense. And if it goes bad, then it kind of cripples me. Anyways, look like inspector, and then here we'll go look like controls again. Differentiate our stuff from the default Unity stuff. And then if GUI layout.button to create a button. Open editor. Then we'll fill that in a little bit. Okay, so then if we go to Unity, and if we go, oh, there's one more thing missing. One more thing missing. We have to say what it is an inspector for. So to do that, we say custom editor, and then we say the type, which we have to say type of first. Then it was what? Post system? Yes. Close, close, close. There we go. Now we can go to Unity and see everything's okay. It says multiple object editing not supported. Basically, if you're not selecting multiple objects, just select something else and get selected again to kind of refresh it. And so you see we have our normal inspector here, and then we have our button, our custom button, which we created, which does nothing right now. Pretty fancy, I know. Okay, and so then let's go to, that was Post System Inspector. Let's go to Post System Editor. Open that up. Why does it keep maximizing it? Anyways, let's see. We'll do the same jazz here. We'll clear this out. And this one right here is going to be editor window. Right. Oh, it's not in there because we have to put in the editor stuff here too. Unity editor, bam, bam. And then void on GUI, void init. And this is going to be different from what you see in the documentations because we're going to open this window from that button here instead of what you see in the documentation, which is they'll usually create a menu button for it or the menu binding for it. Okay, and then let's see. We have a posse system. It's called PS. And then we'll have a post system here too. Post system, and everything can pretty much be private in here. Let's call it system. And then here is PS. Can't really, the way we invoke this to be open, we can't really do this in a constructor, so we just make an init function, which when we open it, we're going to call this function to set this right here. So if im underscore system equals null, and for these model behaviors and other Unity things, the equals null check is overridden to where it doesn't actually have to be null. It just checks to see if a connection is still valid. Then let's say GUI layout dot label. We're going to draw a label here. Invalid system. Please reopen and refresh. Don't know if that's the best error message, but it'll do for right now. And then we're just going to return here. And then pretty much anything down below is going to assume the system is valid here. GUI layout.label. And if you're not familiar with GUI layout, but you're familiar with the GUI stuff, it's basically, you save a lot of time by just having it calculate the sizes of things for you. I pretty much almost never use just like the normal GUI stuff. Although we will use it in this project, but usually when I don't have to, I don't. Connected to underscore system. Game object.name. And then here, if the button is clicked, then I think it's post system editor PSE equals post system editor, because this function here doesn't return a post system editor, it returns an editor window. But get window type of post, holy mackerel, that's getting long, close, semicolon. So basically, if this doesn't exist right here, a window for it, it'll create one. And if it does exist, it will recycle it. So there's only one of these windows that can exist at most at any time. Anyways, PSE dot, oh wait, we do have to make this function public for that other class to have access to it. Control S save, backspace dot init, and then the post system we have access to, but it's not in a as a post system, it's as this game object here, or Unity engine.object. So we have to cast it and save. Let's go to Unity. Let's see what it looks like. So if we go here now, we can hit Open Editor, and it was created off screen, but here we go. connected to main camera, and then if something happens to it, heaven forbid, such as it gets deleted, the next time it refreshes, invalid system, please reopen refresh. I just undid it, and the connection's good again. So that's going to be this first part, is just having this right here. We still have the ability to edit, as we would normal inspector controls, but now we have this editor that will open. And the reason we create this window instead of putting all the GUI that goes here instead of in the inspector here is just because then we have all this real estate, and we don't have to worry about how, this inspector being really thin width-wise. Okay, so alright, let's save the scene. What do I want to save it as? I guess demo.